Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisance to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasa, the way of the author. Srimvatam Swakata Krishna,
Srimvatam Krishna,
Shravana Kirtanaha,
Punyam Kargatedanaha,
Priyantasto Hivadrani,
Priyantasto Bhadrani,
Vedunoti Saritsatam,
Vedunoti Saritsatam,
Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashta Prayeshu Vagreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya,
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya,
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke,
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke,
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki,
Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God that is praised with transcendental signs and establishes an irrevocable pride. We have a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. I hope it's text 2 today. That's what I'm praying for, although they're all kind of related. Is it text 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 5, the cause of all causes. And we're on text 2. Yad
Yad
Rupam
Rupam
Yad.
Yad.
Huh? It's not on the board?
No.
Ooh.
Oops.
The one on the board is na-nu-nam. Na-nu-nam.
That must have been the Bhagavad Gita verse on.
Yeah.
I didn't do a Bhagavad Gita version.
Oh. What's it doing
That must
there?
be there
It's on
from
the previous.
Friday.
No, back to bottom here. From the last. Okay, this my phone did not go to the right place. So I'm gonna-
I don't see it. So
What verse is that? Somebody wrote a. What does it say the verse is?
it says it's verse 2.
Verse 2. Yeah, no problem. It says here.
252.
Chapter 5. Should
Okay.
do chapter 4 or something by any chance? Thinking it was chapter 5.
Why don't you go ahead and
Chant the
chant
right
what we
one.
have,
Yeah.
and we'll up off Northwest.
I'm going to find it again here. The Bibles. So I was still looking for what the answer was. Okay, just repeat that after me. Yad, we did that.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it again. Start from the beginning. Yad,
Yeah.
Yad
Rupam.
Yad,
Yad
Adhishtanam,
Adhishtanam
Yata.
Yata.
That's the first line of the second verse. Let's see. Anybody want this book?
Yes, other people can use it if they want.
Can somebody read the book?
That verse on the board
First one,
is
jump up, get
that
set.
verse on the board is
Okay.
512.
You take that one out.
512 instead of 5. Instead of 2, 5. Oh, somebody was dyslexic.
Okay.
Five, two,
All right.
okay, that explains it.
all right.
So we'll do the right one.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, let me say the first line together for whoever can do it with me. Yad rupam yad adhishtanam.
Yadrupam yadadhishtanam.
Yata
Yata
swishtam
Swishtam
idam
Idam
prabho.
Prabho.
Yata swishtam idam prabho.
Yata Srisam Idam Prabho.
Yat
Yat
samstam
Sansam
Yat
Yat
param
Param
Yat
Yat
cha
Cha
Yat samstam Yat param Yat cha
Yat Samsam Yat Param Yat Cha.
Tat
Tat
tatvam
Tatvam
vada
Vada
tatpataha
Tatvadaha
tat tatvam vada tatpataha
Tat Tatvam Vada Tatvada
Yad rupam yad adhishtanam
Yadrupam Yadashriram
Yata swishtam idam prabho
Yata Srisam Prabho
Yat samstam Yat param Yat cha
Yat Samsa Yat Param
tat tatvam vada tatpataha
Tat Tatvam Vada Tatvadaha
I think that was two. So yad rupam yad adhishtanam
Yadrupam Yadashriram
Yata swishtam idam prabho
Yata Srisam Idam Prabho.
Yat samstam Yat param Yat cha
Yat
Yastamta Param Yashacha
tat tatvam vada tatpataha
Tat Tatvam Vada Tatvadaha
Anybody want to try?
Yat Rupam Yadadhishtanam.
Yadrupam Yadahistadam
Yata Srisam Idam Prabho.
Yatha Srisam Idam Prabho
Yat Samsta Yat Param Yat Cha.
Yat Samsa Yat Param Yascha
Tat Tatvam Vada Tatpata.
Tat Tatvam Vada Tatvadaha Yadrupam Yadahistanam
Yat Rupam Yadadhishtanam.
Yatha Srisam Idam Prabho
Yata Srisam Idam Prabho.
Yastam Samstam Yat Param Yatscha
Yat Samstam Yat Param Yat Cha.
Tat Tatvam Vada Tatvadaha
Tat Tatvam Vada Tatvataha.
Yad rupam yad adhishtanam.
Yadrupam Yadahistanam
Yata sristam idam prabho.
Yatha Srisam Idam Prabho
Yat samstam yat param yat cha.
Yat Samstam Yat Param Yatscha
Tat tatvam vada tatpataha.
Tat Tatvam Vada Tatvadaha
Anybody else? Okay, word meanings. Yat,
Yat
what?
What?
Rupam,
Rupam
the symptoms of manifestation.
The symptoms of manifestation
Yat,
Yat
what?
What?
Adhishtanam,
Adhishtanam
background.
Background
Yataha,
Yataha
from where?
From where?
Srishtam,
Srishtam
created.
Created
Idam,
Idam
this world.
This world
Prabho,
Prabho
O my Father.
O my Father
Yat,
Yat
in which?
in which
Samstam,
Samstam
conserved.
Conserved
Yat,
Yat
what?
What?
Param,
Param
under control.
Under control
Yat,
Yat
what are?
What are?
Cha,
Cha
and.
and
Tat,
Tat
of this.
of this
Tatvam,
Tatvam
the symptoms.
the symptoms
Vada,
Vada
please describe.
Please describe
Tatvataha,
Tatvataha
factually.
Factually
Translation of purport by His Divine Grace, A. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
My dear Father, please describe factually the symptoms of this manifest world. What is its background? How is it created? How is it conserved? And under whose control is all this being done? Please repeat. My dear Father,
My dear Father,
please describe factually the symptoms
please describe factually the symptoms
of this manifest world.
of this manifest world.
What is its background?
What is the background?
How is it created?
How is it created?
How is it conserved?
How is it conserved?
And under whose control is all this being done?
And under whose control is all this being done?
Purport. Inquiries by Narada Muni on the basis of factual cause and effect appear very reasonable. The atheists, however, put forward many self-made theories without any touch of cause and effect. The manifested world, as well as the spirit soul, is still unexplained by the godless atheists through the medium of experimental knowledge, although they have put forward many theories manufactured by their fertile brains. Contrary to such mental speculative theories of creation, however, Narada Muni wanted to know all the facts of creation in truth, and not by theories. Transcendental knowledge regarding the soul and the supersoul includes knowledge of the phenomenal world and the basis of its creation. In the phenomenal world, three things are factually observed by any intelligent man: the living beings, the manifest world, and the ultimate control over them. The intelligent man can see that neither the living entity nor the phenomenal world are creations of chance. The symmetry of creation and its regulative actions and reactions suggests the plan of an intelligent brain behind them. And by genuine inquiry, one may find out the ultimate cause with the help of one who knows them factually. So this is Narada Muni asking Lord Brahma, and it's gonna say in the next few verses why he's asked. Everybody assumes Lord Brahma is the creator, he's the topmost, and Narada Muni sees that he's creating the world and he can't see anybody above him, but why does Lord Brahma meditate? So he wants to know what's beyond Lord Brahma. So that's what's going on. And Narada Muni is asking, he's asking honestly, he's being honest, he's asking what's happening. It's less than honest to create theories. And then theories always change. Like now in my Facebook, it's all the rage to put postings about this planet X is turning out to be some black hole, or somebody said, some study says. Now they're all excited. We have a black hole in our universe, and it's the size of a basketball. And it's incredibly heavy, but it's all compressed. That's what they are saying nowadays, and they're calling it the 9th planet. Isn't it interesting? Because we all grew up thinking there were 9 planets, and Pluto was a planet. And now there are 9 planets because we have planet X, but it's not really a planet, it's a black hole. So they're changing all the time, these theories, and yet they dare to propose them. It's not honest, because they don't know. Of course, in their defense, we could say, well, they don't know that there is a way to know, because they're growing up in the West, and that's how Westerners are taught. But still, it's less than honest. A truly honest person will ask someone who knows. They don't know how to do that. They don't know there's someone who knows. It's too bad. Or even when someone who knows comes, they doubt it. They reject it. I like to search. My whole career is made out of searching for the truth and making theories. So no, I don't want your truth. They'll resist it. That would wrap up their career just like that, pretty much. So they want to have theories. And it's Prabhupada's sarcastic humor. He says, manufactured by their fertile brains. Fertile land grows lots of weeds. It grows weeds as well as crops. It grows a lot. So they're growing all these theories in their fertile brains. So we are kind of used to Prabhupada saying that, but it's a pretty clever touch of sarcastic humor on his part. So this is, let's see. So Prabhupada pronounces that Narada Muni's questions about factual cause and effect in this material world is very reasonable. And it is reasonable. Sometimes we may wonder why Maharaj Parishad asked Sukadeva Goswami about the creation. And why did he ask about the universe. If he's not going to go there, he's going to go back to the spiritual world. So why is that? That it's good to ask about it, and why is that part of transcendental knowledge, to know the material world? Why is it like that? Well, we think we know the material world because we depend on our senses and our fertile brains and other people's fertile brains, and we have all our theories. And in fact, our brains are always putting together theories because we have our senses senses are knowledge acquiring organs, and they come, and this senses send messages to the brain, and the brain sorts it out into a theory of what reality is. So we do this ourselves in a way. I mean, we have to function in this world, but this is what happens. So it's very hard to unlearn. Even we who join the movement and believe in Prabhupada, what he says, it takes a long time studying the Bhagavatam and thinking about it. There's a good kind of speculative process that we can and should do, which means it's philosophical speculation. Sometimes Prabhupada uses the word philosophical speculation to mean the same as mental speculation, but I have at home in my notebook, and I just thought of it now, so I can't tell you, but he does say that there, in a letter to somebody, he explained that philosophical speculation in the good sense is speculation to understand how it could be so, what the scriptures say. So we have to think like that. So we have to think how the, for example, the 8 elements in the Bhagavad Gita. So, okay, there's a list of 8 elements. We can memorize it by rote, and we can pipe it out, yeah, there are 5 gross elements and 3 subtle elements, so we can just say it. But we should try to speculate, use our speculating process to think philosophically how it could be solved. And so, one phase of my understanding, I heard a devotee say, who obviously had done this thinking, he said that it's like solid, liquid, gas, and electricity and combustion and space, like that. So I thought for a long time that was my understanding of it, because every time I see the word elements, I think of the periodic table with all those, and there are all different kinds of atoms, and chemists have figured out these different kinds of atoms and made it in the table of the elements, and there's like 90 or something. And so when I see the word element, I think of that because that's my training, and so I have to make an adjustment, and so my process for a long time was to accept this idea of solid, liquid, gas, like that. But then just recently, for some reason, this process of unlearning how we've been taught takes time too. But I suddenly realized, well, how many different kinds of liquid are there naturally occurring? Well, there's water and things that mix with water, and there's changing water into different substances, all based on water. And what else is there that's naturally liquid? Well, there's petroleum, but it's kind of like, it's either a mineral or a fossil. It's either an organic compound from the combination of all the elements, or it's a liquid mineral, and so it makes it earth. And
Mercury.
It's toxic anyway. What?
Mercury.
And mercury. Mercury is also a metal. It's shiny like a metal. It's a metal. It just happens to be liquid at room temperature. So I can't think of any other naturally occurring liquid substances that are not water-based. I couldn't think of anything. Maybe I'm missing something.
Milk?
Milk is water-based. You can dry the water out of it, you have powdered milk. It's just stuff mixed in the water. And likewise, salt water, urine, various kinds of solutions, our blood, it's all based on blood plasma is the liquid, it's based on water. So water mixes with other elements, but water is the element. There isn't really another, when it says water, it doesn't mean all liquids, it means water is the element, and then it mixes with other things and makes other substances. So I got all excited about this. It's funny because I've been reading it for years, and it's just a list of elements and stuff we already know by experience. But it all of a sudden became beautiful to me. And all the different kinds of atoms and stuff there in Earth, a lot of different kinds of atoms in Earth. But what we have when there's creation, there's some air, which is the atmosphere, which is nitrogen and oxygen. We have different kinds of atoms in the air too. Nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, what else is there? Basically those things, that's the atmosphere, and then other things get mixed in. So then we have water, then we have earth, which is all kinds of rocks and sand and clay, like that, crystals, gems, like that. And they're made out of course, you can break it down to different kinds of atoms, but then they mix. And when all of them mix together, then you have living entities. Not because they all mix, but living entities mix all of them together in order for their bodies to work. They have something from everything. And so these are the elements. And then I took it literally, and it became like really beautiful to me. And so it's like the musician who gets students and he charges X amount to teach them some instrument. Okay, and he gets a student who's done some self-study or studied under somebody else. And he charges double. And the student says, why are you charging double? I already know some things. He says, I have to charge you for extra time to unteach you first. So, and that's what we're all going through. We go to school and we learn a certain idea of what things are. The primordial soup, we know the Big Bang. We just, and a caveman, things that we're so used to that if we're not careful, they're still in our picture of ancient history in our mind. And so we have to unlearn these things. The Vedic stories tell something completely different. And to actually get realization all the way down in our subconscious, in our mental images, in our routine thoughts about things, it takes a lot of unlearning. But it's important, because if we do not learn it right, and we do not learn about the material energy right, we will be under its illusion yet. So we will still think we're the body, for example. And everything is bodies that you see. The earth is a body. Plants and trees and birds and bugs and worms and germs are all bodies, and with living entities in them. So we have to understand them, re-understand them that way. So this is a very valid question that Narada Muni is asking. And Parikshit Maharaj asked about it too. He wanted to know. And so, first of all, we understand that there are basically three elements, three factors, let's say, not use the word element. Three factors. There's the material energy, the living entity, and the supreme controller. And this is in Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, in the introduction, a few pages into the introduction, Prabhupada spends a few pages on 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita. And the only 2 to be added are time, and which he explains ultimately is Krishna himself, an impersonal, universal form of Krishna. And then there is activities. So if you mix them, there's activities.
Karma.
Karma, yeah. Karma means activities. So there's Ishvara, supreme controller, Jiva, the individual soul, Prakriti, nature, which means bodies. It's always in bodies. Or it was in a body, or it's debris that's part of a body, or something like that, like sand is part of the earth body. And so it's all bodies. And then time, they can't interact unless there's time. I did something yesterday, today I do a different thing, and tomorrow I'll do something different. So there's time, separating these activities, past, present, and future. And of course there's activities. But without time there can't be activities because they're different. The activities come in sequence. So there has to be these 5 things. But essentially, in the beginning to understand, there are 3 things. And then because of time, then we can have activities. So there's God, soul, and matter, basically. And so the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna spends a lot of time discussing it in the Bhagavad Gita. And in the Bhagavatam, it's been discussed at length. So it's important to understand it, or we will have our wrong assumptions, and we will remain attached. So it's really important to understand even how the creation happened and everything. If we think creation happened by itself, then we're confused about what matter is, for example. So, and the Bhagavad Gita has 3 levels of confidentiality. And the knowledge comes in 3 levels of confidentiality. It says that here and there, and I made a study of it at one point. All 3 levels are more stressed in the re-edited version. In the original version, 2 of them are stressed. All 3 are there, but 2 of them are stressed. And which one is closer to Prabhupada? They're debating that and trying to work that out between them now. They're talking. But, so the re-edited version supposedly goes back to the first transcripts or rough draft or something. Anyway, they are arguing about that or trying to communicate about it now.
Who's they?
They are those people who are involved in editing and editing controversies and re-editing, stuff like that. They're certain key persons. They have met recently and they had good communication. So it's going to be resolved in a positive way, this controversy about 2 editions. But I did notice that there's, in the re-edited version, there is almost like equal stress. There's confidential, more confidential, and most confidential. In the original version, there's confidential, and then anything that would be more confidential is simply leading you to most confidential when it's about most confidential. So the stress is a little bit different, depending on certain purports and how they edit it. But anyway, the 3 are there. And in 9.1 in the purport, Prabhupada describes the differences by location and chapters. In 9.2, he describes the differences by... The first one describes the soul. The first level describes the soul in 9.2 in the purport. And then it makes some lengthy discussion of devotional service, which he does not label as more confidential. But then he discusses what most confidential knowledge is, which is activities in the spiritual world, which is pure love for Krishna. So more confidential knowledge usually has to do with the practice of devotional service and the presence of Super Soul helping us get there. The purpose of Super Soul being here is to get us back there. So in a sense, Super Soul, knowledge of Super Soul is more confidential knowledge, but it's for the purpose of getting us to most confidential knowledge. So there's no disagreement actually. So anyways, there's of the 5 topics, they come in different levels too. So when we first learn about the body, about nature, we learn that it's temporary. It's going to die. And next we learn about the body, what do you think? That it's made of material nature, which is an energy of Krishna's. And we learn that it's a divine energy of Krishna's. It's eternally existing. It just gets shaped in temporary ways. So we learn about even matter in different levels. We would learn about time in different levels. We learn about time that everybody's going to die, and the body's going to die, and we're going to go on. Okay, so that's reincarnation, that's time. Then we learn that time has huge cycles. And then we learn that in the spiritual world there's no material time. There's no such thing as material time, although they have cycles of there's no past and present and future, but they do have like repeating patterns of devotional service to Krishna, different activities they do with Krishna. They kind of rotate the activities, so they have like times a day, but they don't have time passing like we have here. You get old enough to die, not like that. They just again and again do the same things ever fresh. So they do not have material time. So these are 3 levels of time to understand. So when we understand these things, and so also about creation, we have to learn about, I don't know about different levels of, well, first we learn Krishna created, then we learn of Brahma created. We learn more and more details. And but the more we learn, let's see, as I was going to read something in the ISKCON about, it's amazing. Okay. ISKCON 9. Those who engage in the culture of nescient activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So we want to be careful about about so-called knowledge, material knowledge that the scientists have, speculative knowledge, impersonal knowledge like that. So that doesn't help us, and that's mission, the culture of mission activities. We don't want to engage in learning, and just our whole life, like being a material scientist, your whole life is about that, where they're going. So, and then it says 10, the wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of missions. And then, surprise, 11 says, only one who can learn the process of missions and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So only if you understand both of them. It's actually really important to understand both of them.
What chapter is that?
This is Ishopanishad 9, 10, 11. It's not chapters.
1, 2.
Yeah, it's just got those mantras or something. So, it's good to learn about it, but don't mean we have to go to school and become a scientist to learn about it, because if we're learning, there will not be learning side by side. When we learn from Bhagavad Gita, and when we learn the accounts of creation of the material world from the Bhagavatam, then we're learning them side by side, because we see exactly, we dissect what this material nature really is in light of the truth of who Krishna really is. And only that, if we go on being, we can know a lot about Krishna, but if we know nothing about this world in relation to Krishna, if we don't know how Krishna controlled it, how we're not these bodies, if we don't know this kind of stuff, then we will just have sentimentality and we'll still be attached. Sentimentality about Krishna will still be attached here. So we need to dissect this and understand what it really is, this material world. So, for example, we have to unlearn something. We go to school, we learn that first there was some lightning and some chemicals combined, and all of a sudden we had organic chemicals floating around in a primordial soup. And then somehow these chemicals learned how to cooperate. Chemicals learned how to cooperate and make cells. And somehow they all got together and they had a cell they could reproduce. And then all these cells somehow learned how to cooperate and make a body. And they can't. And how do they learn how to cooperate? That's what they say. So this is what we grew up learning, and we believe it because we learned from childhood. And it just seems mysterious, and wow, it must be so, the scientists say. But actually, what happens is the eternal spirit souls are always existing. They're never changing. Material energy is always existing, but it can be changed into things. So it can be formless and qualityless, just existing, or when creation happens, it gets formed into things. And the first creation is Mahavishnu. He separates the elements by senses, and they are described by the power to relate to senses. First it's sound, then it's touch, air, ether, space is sound, and air is touch, and then fire, which is next. Fire is form, water is taste, and earth is smell. Although it seems like earth has to be mixed with things in order to produce the world. You can smell rocks in a way too. But all the variety of smell comes from earth, the quality of earth. So he separates the elements by senses and by desiring to experience the senses. And he makes the blueprints he creates in a subtle way his own material senses. He's got spiritual senses, but then he creates his material senses, so that they can be there for us, because it's all interconnected. And this is really hard to understand. And then the sense organs, it's really hard to understand how the sense organs can be created before there are any bodies. So this is something we have to unlearn what we learned in school, which we didn't realize how little sense it made. And we have to learn something new, which makes more sense, but not yet to us. It's really hard to grasp it. So we have to spend a lot of time unlearning as well as learning. So that's why sometimes, like 40 years of chanting Hare Krishna, reading Prabhupada's books, and something simple like those 5 elements, all of a sudden, wow, it's beautiful. For 35 years of chanting and reading that, and all of a sudden it's beautiful to me. So this is why we have to unlearn stuff, little thing at a time, So different people get different realizations at different times as we unlearn things. So, but we have to have the correct spiritual view of how matter works. And that's why it's important to understand about the creation and annihilation. In the end, just to finish helping Maharaj Pariksit completely let go of everything. Shukadeva Goswami, which when I came here, we were in the 12th canto and describing the destruction, how is the sun gets hot and dries everything, burns everything, then the water comes and floods and the big clouds and everything, and then how, I forget exactly, but the elements start being absorbed into one another, and it backs up one into another, and you lose this sense, so finally, then it's just the Mahataka with the modes of nature, and then that gets absorbed back into, becomes completely, indescribably non-differentiated pradana, just Krishna's inferior energy, nothing else. And when you think about that, you think about all this world that I'm accustomed to, and it has its beauty, it certainly has incredible beauty, because Krishna's in every atom, and what's Krishna going to do that isn't beautiful? So everything is beautiful, and we are attached, we identify with it and everything, and it's all going to be reabsorbed back into itself and have no qualities at all. Why hang on to it? So if we have this kind of knowledge, that will help us in our spiritual life. It's not just knowledge of Krishna and just knowledge of Super Soul and just knowledge of souls, but we have to have this kind of knowledge to unlearn our attachments and let go, to unlearn our wrong way of being attached to this world. So this is what's going to be happening now. Is Narada Muni is asking Lord Brahma not only who is behind you, he's going to ask that too, but he's also asking him, please explain what this material world really is. Why? Because he sees it. He's seeing forms, he's feeling it and everything, he's identifying his body. But what's the truth about it? He says factual. What's the truth? So he wants the correct understanding. So I think I will stop there. Questions and discussions? Yes.
The Bhagavatam 11:28-2 says not to praise or criticize mundane people in mundane levels, because we come in contact with the modes of nature. It didn't say good or bad. So it's like a secondary karmic effect. Like you get that stuff on you.
Yeah.
In the 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita, karma is the only one that can change. So you could
that can be
gotten rid of.
Yeah.
So you could still get rid of that.
Mm-hmm. Just keep chanting. Yeah.
But you just put unnecessary.
Yeah, you hold yourself back by putting, you're going to clean, but you're going to keep dumping in dirt while you're cleaning. Your cleaning is going to be way slowed down.
Like the elephant.
Like the elephant, yes.
Like it's the elephant.
Yeah. Chant your rounds and then you go and criticize somebody. So, not saying that we can't identify what's proper behavior, what isn't. We want to know what to follow, what not to follow, what to allow, what not to allow. We are a community, we have to be practical. But you don't just indulge in, like entering into it.
And that's the word he uses, indulge.
Yeah.
Whoever indulges in the praising or criticizing the qualities and behaviors of others will quickly become deviated from his own best interest by his entanglement in illusory duality.
An example would be, you done?
Mm-hmm.
Like Obama, the devotees were excited about Obama when he was running. Because he seemed like a fresh, good person. They're all excited about him, but he's not a devotee. So we should just say, okay, that's really good. There are a lot of people like that, and so that's good. We got one running, maybe. But what happened? He still had to participate in the same stuff, and he still got his hands dirty because he had no choice but to participate in stuff that presidents are required to do these days, like bomb innocent people.
And he carries Hanuman with him too.
Yeah, but Hanuman is not Krishna, so he's a devotee of Krishna, but he doesn't know I doubt very much that he sees Hanuman as a devotee, but more as like one of the demigods or something. Some people worship Hanuman because he's not a devotee of Krishna at this present life. Yeah.
Second part, a person who becomes an expert, but he's not a Brahmin, right? He's a Vipra.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means just expert. They're really like outstanding in their scientific field, in their art, in their musical playing, and whatever. They're super expert. A Vipra
You gotta be
doesn't
careful.
get you home either.
Don't forget that Vipra is sometimes used to mean Brahmana.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's like you get a dictionary, you open it up and you look up definitions, there's like 6 definitions,
So Vipra can be Brahmin.
Yeah. You have to make sure you understand the context. Anything else? Okay, thank you. All the best to Srila Prabhupada. All the best to Srimad Bhagavatam.